It's a Football Friday. Please bring in the CFL on TSN's Jim Barker. And, Coach, before we get to the CFL stuff and the Braley Bowl tonight, we should get your opinion on what everybody's talking about. The Bills blow out the Dolphins last night, 31-10. Tua's third concussion, gone indefinitely. What's the management side of this that you could tell us that?
Well, again, I think players have the right. They're adults. They have the right to make their decision on what they want to do. We went through, I was in Calgary when Dave Dickinson came over. And again, I've seen Zach go through what he's gone through. I mean, concussions, these things have kind of progressed through time. The doctors will tell them what again, any guy who plays football understands, or woman who plays football understands the risks you take when you go out on the field. There are guys with knees that one more hit on the side and they won't walk again, yet they'll still choose to play. I think when you're an adult and you have, you have the facts, you have the right to make that decision. And again, as management, you talk to them about making sure that's what they understand everything about it. And again, I just hate when outsiders start telling people what to do with their life, and you don't know what motivates people. And again, I think Tua will. I think you hit it on the head, or Darren, one of you, who said it won't be for money. He won't make this decision for money. I honestly believe he's going to make this decision based on his heart and what is important to him in his life. And again, football, when you put everything you had into it and the relationships you develop, I mean, those players on that team become family, and it's difficult to turn and walk away from them and say, you know what, I'm sorry, I just can't do this anymore. That's a tough thing to do. Now, will he do it? I believe he will, if he believes that's the right thing for him. So, again, it's very unfortunate. It's the part of the game that we all disdain. But from the time we start playing, there's people who believe that the game is unsafe. So you make decisions and you live with it. And again, I think, like you talked about Matty, and I doubt he would have changed his decision. There's much more knowledge now than there was when he had his injury. But and again, I don't know. I know him, well enough that we worked together, but I would bet he would have played. There's just something about that being on the field that is hard to describe. And again, I don't know what he'll do, but God bless him, whichever he chooses. I know there's a ton of respect for Tua around the league, just like there is for Zach Collaros. And when you see, the Miles Brown hit from a couple weeks ago, which I felt was a bit cheap, but when you see a guy who's fairly new to the league do something like that to a guy, he doesn't know what Zach has been through, and that could end his career. I mean, people just don't understand that stuff, and it's difficult. I know Damar Hamlin, after the game, he said, I was just trying to make a tackle, the last thing he wanted to do. And you could almost tell by how he made the tackle. He tackled him with his shoulder and kind of was pulling off of it because he just, he didn't want to. And Tua's put his head down, and there wasn't much that Damar could do. But even Damar Hamlin knew what Tua's situation was, and I thought tackled him with an incredible amount of respect.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it would take much to concuss Tua either, by the way. It looked like just a typical quarterback carrying the ball. Guy making a tackle on him. And all of a sudden, he's got his third concussion. His career's in jeopardy. That's how fragile he is. Now, to the CFL. I'm calling it the Braley Bowl. I don't think anybody else is. Please join me in that. Toronto at BC tonight. Our viewers say it's the game of the week. Do you agree?
I think it's as important as any game. I think it's as intriguing as any game. I wish it was played on a Saturday at 4 in the afternoon. I'm telling you, that 10 o'clock kickoff for these Eastern players, you have to remember, they're on a schedule where they're showing up for work every day at 7:30 in the morning. And when your body's on that schedule, and now all of a sudden you're kicking off at 10 o'clock at night. I mean, it was interesting. Last night I was watching the Miami game, got to 10 o'clock, and I thought, man, I couldn't even imagine going out and playing a game now for 3 hours. I mean, now, again, I'm 68 years old and probably, it's a little different. But I'm telling you, that's a hard trip on the body. And I would love to know the number of teams that have gone out there and won. I mean, teams have gone out to BC and won. But most of the time, they're Saturday or Sunday games where they normally will kick off around 4 o'clock Western time, 7 o'clock here in the East. This 10 o'clock kickoff is a difficult one for Toronto. But it is a huge game.
You just talked me into picking BC because it's two good teams. I mean, I don't know what's going to swing the victor, but that would be a big factor.
Yeah, the Toronto defense has been not very good, and obviously Chad Kelly on the wet field last week he was bad. He overthrew players and got them behind by throwing interceptions. But I was impressed that at the end of the game he calmed down and was completing balls and things. He didn't completely implode, and he needs to play Chad Kelly level. If he can do that. Their defense, again, I think needs to play better. In the Labor Day game, it was the same thing. They were down 24-3 before, he even got settled in your seat. The Hamilton had scored 24 points on their defense. Their secondary has been terrible. They've done a good job of stopping the run, and Standback comes in, and again, they're giving up only 76 yards a game rushing, which is fantastic. But a big reason for that is because everybody can throw the ball on them. I mean, they haven't been able to stop anybody throwing the ball. So they need to get a scheme or do something to slow down this BC Lion passing attack, or it's going to be, it could be ugly. But if they can do that and get a couple of where they don't score and get the ball and they can get a few we could just have one heck of a game because, again, that the offense of Toronto will get better, just like Nathan Rourke has got better. Chad Kelly will get better as he gets his reps, and it's going to be interesting. What's really going to be interesting is BC has a bye after this, and then VA comes back. The presumptive leader for the MOP going in. I mean, you just sit him down, Rod? You just sit him down and say, VA, you're not playing anymore?
That's what they're going to do, and you know the answer to that. That's what they're going to do. You can't have two quarterbacks on the field at the same time. It's not the first time we've seen that. But, let's just assume the Argos lose tonight. Then you got a situation in Hamilton tomorrow that if Ottawa wins, they clinch. And then Hamilton's got a life if the Argos lose tonight. So you got two very motivated teams going to meet at the Coffee Cup tomorrow.
Well, yeah, if Toronto loses tonight, tomorrow's Hall of Fame game becomes monstrous for Hamilton because they can really, they've already got the season series now on Toronto. So all they have to do is tie them and they will move on. So they're 3 games behind right now. But that game becomes huge for them. Chris Jones has brought their defense some confidence. They're getting off the field better. And that, in turn, has turned Bo Levi, who is having a great year numbers-wise, but throwing a lot of interceptions and turning it over at bad times. That makes that game that much more interesting, that Hall of Fame game. Because Ottawa, again, they're, 8-2, 8-2-1. But they're just... you just don't know exactly where they're at. But they have them this week, and then they have Montreal next week, and we'll know a lot more about this Ottawa team. They still don't have Pimpleton, who's their big play guy. Dre Miller is a new receiver who's come in and has shown that propensity to make big plays, but he doesn't have that Pimpleton speed. Now, I think Pimpleton will be back for Montreal. And again, should Ottawa win this game, that game next week, should Montreal go into Calgary and beat Calgary, which I don't think is a given this week. I just have you just hope Jake Mayer, he gets to come back and that it's like he just throws it out there and just plays out of his head. I just hope that for that kid. After getting benched and sitting the whole game, watching his replacement throw 5 interceptions, that had to be just excruciating for him. But now he gets a chance to come back, and he's going against a Montreal team that's not going to give up a lot of big plays. That's a tough team for Calgary. But, again, it makes that game all that much more intriguing.
See, now that's my game of the week. But it's largely because Cody Fajardo's playing in it, and he's my guy. But I'm reading all the game notes. Montreal's beaten Calgary in 3 straight games, and Fajardo's been at the quarterback at the helm for all of them. Mm-hmm. So, and like Jake Mayer wouldn't have been sat down, Jim, if there wasn't a reason. So they couldn't, this guy comes in, he can't do anything. I understand you're saying it's not a given because no games are in pro football, but to me, this is the game of the week because I have no idea how it's going to turn out. I think Montreal's going to win, but Calgary's going to show some pride here.
Yeah, they do. And again, I think that, I look at John Huffnagel and Dave Dickinson made the decision to move on from Bo Levi Mitchell and go to Jake Mayer. And I have a ton of respect for both of those guys when it comes to dealing with quarterbacks. And they made this decision. They put it on Jake Mayer. And you know what? He struggled. There's no doubt about it. And I think now Dave took him out. And this is like a real chance for him to say, you know what? You made the right decision. So, again, that game is so intriguing because of that. Now they're playing a Montreal team that's going to keep everything in front of them. They're not going to give up big plays. You're not going to get any cheap ones against Montreal. That's just Dequoy. He's going to be out, which helps, but it's still a problem, I think, playing Montreal because you have to be patient. You have to run the ball. Dedrick Mills is back. That will help them. And then you have to be able to hold on to it. You can't keep giving Cody the ball back on 2 and outs because Cody will beat you. I mean, he understands that offense. Again, I don't think he's gotten his he came back off the injury. I think he hasn't played his best. I think he will want to go into Calgary and play at the highest level. So, I find that to be an intriguing game also. Again, they're all so interesting. It's going to be great. We're going out. We'll be on site at the Hall of Fame game to watch Chad Owens, who played for me, Ray Yock, who brought me in the league, going in. When I can see guys like that go in, it makes me feel a little older, but it also it's great pride.
I think we all feel a little older when we think about these things. And Weston Dressler, S.J. Green, Marvin Coleman, Vince Goldsmith, Ray Yock. I feel like I'm missing one. It's a stellar group. I'm very envious of you that you're going to be there. Chad Owen, the Flying Hawaiian, who we had in Sask. There's a wonderful Saskatchewan flavor to this. We had Chad at the end of his career, but that was just a footnote. But there's a Hall of Fame. This is a great class, Jim. This is a great class.
I agree. I'm excited about it. Like I say, Ray Yock brought me into the CFL. So that was when I got my first head coaching job. He was my offensive coordinator back in 1999. So Ray has, again, a special play. He gave me the love of the CFL just in my time as a guest coach. He was just so fantastic. I understood Canadian game was different, and he made it fun for everybody, players, coaches, guest coaches, which I was at that point. So, like I say, to see Ray go in, and then Chad Owens, the year he had that great year in 2010, and I was able to win Coach of the Year because of him. I mean, he did everything. He caught the ball, he returned, he returned kicks, he returned punts. He was such a spectacular player his entire time in Toronto.
Jim, have fun with it, man, and we'll be watching down here. Thanks for the time.
All right, thanks, Rod.
The CFL on TSN's Jim Barker.